you're the teacher. Oh, your head's in the way. Sorry.
To give up your time today for the girls and the boy, and I'm sure they're going to find out lots and lots from you, more than they could in the book. So thank you very much.
What we thought we'd do is sit in groups like this, and all the children would like to ask you lots of questions, I'm sure. But to break the ice a little bit, because I think some people might be a bit shy, perhaps if you wouldn't mind if I asked all of you to give us perhaps one special memory, good or bad, that you might like to tell us about of the war. We don't know yet how old you were in the war, so what part of your life it came. But we have been learning a lot about, obviously, children in the war, children who were evacuated, and the Blitz, of course. So, if you don't mind, can I ask each and every one of you one thing that you'd like to tell us, and then I'll let the children ask you their questions. All right, shall I start with my stooge? And look to introduce, this is my mother-in-law, so she's a Mrs. Hoare as well. Well, a granny Mrs. Hoare, if you like. And she was at the Towers when she was a girl. I think you were at the Towers when the war was coming up, weren't you?
Yes, I left when I was 13 in 1938, the end of 1938. That was just before, it was called the crisis, I think, that year, 1938. And I went to another convent afterwards.
Yes.
Yeah, I was 14 when the war broke out.
I think it's been hard for us to imagine not having television and not having the sort of news that we have today. You know it almost before it's finished happening. Whereas in those days, I don't expect you did know very much.
No, we heard a lot on the radio. And most of us used to go to the cinema once a week, and there was always the Gourmand British News and the Pathé News.
At the cinema?
Yes, the cinema. We used to go every week.
So can you tell us one thing that is your sort of biggest memory of the war?
Yes, I lived near London then, and when the sirens used to go off, my teeth used to start to chatter in fear, because we used to get a lot of bombs round our way, and our house, behind our house was the railway line, and there was an anti-aircraft gun that used to go up and down the railway line at night, but most of the raids were at night, and that used to frighten me. And then we spent an awful lot of time down in the area shelter, in the garden.
Thank you. Has anybody else got anything they'd like to ask Mrs. Hoare from what she said? No? Perhaps you'll think of something anyway. Pamela, would you like to introduce your granny to us? Can you do that?
My grandma, she was in the first aid nurse in the war.
Grandma. Can you tell us a little bit about a particular memory perhaps you've got?
Yes, well perhaps I can follow on from your mother-in-law, who I was here with her, but I was a bit older than she is, and I admit it. But so I had done my nursery nursing training when war broke out, and although that was a reserved occupation, we had to do voluntary work, and therefore we had to do a lot of first aid work. So when the sirens went off, as far as I was concerned, it was a question of getting on my bike and going off to the first aid centre in the dark, because you couldn't have any lights during the war in case the bombers could see where the towns were going. So I think so I think my memory is cycling along in the dark.
In the pitch dark?
Yes.
Must have been very bright.
And that awful sound of the sirens going, and then how pleased we were when there was a long wailing sound when it was the thought that the danger was over. So that's, you know, I think my main memory.
Anybody remember what was it called when they put the lights up? What was that called? The black one.
London, in Hampstead. And the first most impressive thing was the Prime Minister, Mr. Neville Chamberlain, came on the radio at 11 o'clock to say that war hostilities had begun. And then, within a few minutes, we heard the sound of an aeroplane overhead, a German aeroplane, and that was very frightening. And I went to school in the north of England, but I was in London for the bombing, and the Blitzkrieg, they called it. And as we lived in Hampstead, I lived in a top flat, and you could see London burning from miles and miles away. And the air raids got so bad that at 6 o'clock every evening, my mother would prepare some tea and sandwiches, hot water bottles, blankets, and we'd all troop down to the cellar of the house, where we slept for the night. And I can remember to this day the sound of aeroplanes circling round, and wondering, is he going to drop a bomb next time he comes round? And then I also remember my mother wanted to go up to the top floor flat to get something she'd forgotten. And I absolutely burst into tears because I thought, if she goes upstairs, she'll be gone, and I'll have no mother. So fortunately, she didn't go up. And then we get up, we go upstairs first thing in the morning, and you could see these fires burning, as I say, for miles away. I'll let someone else tell you about rationing. If anybody else wants to, I mean, otherwise I will.
Well, I'm sure, yeah. We've got some pictures along the back wall which the children have done of their impression of perhaps what it might have been like in the Blitz.
You want me to do my bit?
Grandad, can you do your bit?
Well, I was 17, coming up 18 when the war started, and I thought that I ought to help not to go down with Hitler. So I joined the army. Now, like you, I suppose you all got nice comfortable beds and lovely comfortable rooms. And the thing I remember most about my first day or two in the army was being put in a room about this size with a bare concrete floor and nothing else. And then we were told to go and get our beds. And we were marched off, and we were each given 3 planks. And on these, we put these 3 planks on 2 trestles, and that was our bed. 3 planks on a trestle. And then they said, well, you'll need mattresses. So we were marched off to another place where they gave us a canvas sack about man size. And they said, now you'll need something to put in it. So we were marched off to a pile of straw, and we stuffed the straw into these things, which were called palliasses, and that was our mattresses. Then, of course, when you're at home, you have sheets and pillows in these, don't you? Well, they said, you'll need something to take the place of these. So they marched us up again and gave us 4 rough old blankets, no pillows, of course. And so our first night was very thrilling, on a wooden bed with a straw sack for a mattress and 3 rough old blankets. No, 4, that's right. No.
Bit of a change from home.
What?
Bit of a change from home for you.
Really was. Oh no, and lovely cold water washing. It was all great fun.
Fantastic. Right, now Sarah, you get to introduce your granddad. Are you near enough there? Would you like to come and sit a bit nearer? Or are you all right over there?
We're all right.
We're up. We've got a nice loud voice so we can hear you. Sarah, would you like to introduce your granddad?
This is my granddad, and he was an evacuee.
Right.
Yeah.
Granddad, can you tell us something about being an evacuee?
Well, when war broke out, I was more or less the same age as your pupils are in here today. I was 9 years old. And had a large cornfield, and one night the sirens had gone, and the pits had gone. I'll explain to you what the pits are, but it was an imminent danger. It meant that the aircraft was very, very close, and you should be very aware. I thought, first of all, I thought the light was on in the room. It was so bright and everything, and I pulled back the curtain, the black curtain, just a little bit, and the cornfield at the back of our garden, where it was all bright and all ready to cut. It was one mass of flames from one end to the other, where the incendiary bombs had dropped into the dried corn, and it was one mass of flames. And
Did the whole field catch
the
fire?
whole field, yeah, they just sort of spread all along the
Sorry, can I ask you just to
that.
speak up a tiny bit? Can you hear these ladies
Can
here?
you hear me?
Yeah, because you've got such a lovely loud voice. So the whole field was on fire.
The whole field, from one end to the other. Only Durham here, you know, in the top, at the end of Brassland and Drive, in Portland. And that sticks in my mind as much as anything. But I was an evacuee, but not for very long. My wife was up there a long time. But for the first part of the year of the war, first year of the war down here, it was very quiet. There was very, very little happened, and there was aircraft taking off and landing from shore and down the road. We had a Polish squadron down there, and it was fairly quiet. So my mother decided that she could do with me more than being away, so she had me brought home again. But my wife was up there for 4 years in Yorkshire.
Is that where you were evacuated to?
That's
As
where
well,
we were
Yorkshire?
evacuated to, yeah. And anyway, I came back home and thought, my wartime experiences really are all here locally at your age. And I can tell you, we had a school was evacuated from London down to here, and they had to share our school with us. So we only went to school week in the morning, and they had it in the afternoon. And the following week, we had it in the afternoon, and they had it in the morning. The only drawback about that was also we had to go into school on Saturday mornings as well as all the rest of the mornings to make up.
That wasn't so popular then.
But for all that, even though we lost half a day of all of our early schooling time, I don't remember anybody that really got behind with schoolwork. We had schoolwork to a half a mile. But no, all the children that I was at school with, they all turned out, we had teachers and went on to teach children and, as they grew up and learned their various things. You know, they all done different trades. But no, I had a very happy childhood, even though
Even despite the war.
of course, the other thing was that we never had we couldn't buy the things to eat that you can now. For a start, none of us ever saw an orange or a banana during the war, did we? I mean, you just couldn't get one.
I remember one school assembly when somebody had brought a banana back, I think from America, and it was shown up.
Yeah.
This is a banana.
Well, Jemima's got a page in her book. Her poster for that they all did yesterday is, we were amazed to find that you could get a note from your doctor for an orange. Presumably, if you were, in need of vitamins, you could actually get a note from your doctor to have an orange, which we found amazing. Thank you very much. We'll come back to you in a minute, can we? And you've got your ration book. Fantastic. That is lovely. Thank you. Thank you. Right, let's go over this side of the room. Sophie, introduce Granny, is it? Turn round so everyone can hear you. Nice big loud voice, please. Grandma Mrs. Cross. Yes, or Mrs. Cross.
I've always wondered, I could also watch the London burning from our garden in Hounslow, Middlesex. And for some months we slept in an Anderson shelter in the garden, all 6 of us. But one of the saddest things for us that first year of the war was we went to a large church at Teddington in Middlesex, and one night incendiaries went through the roof. Nobody saw it. And as people got around the next morning, the church was well ablaze, and there was just a little bit of a shell left. That was rather sad. So my sisters and I immediately decided we'll have a sale of work. So we all got busy, all 4 of us, making cakes and buttonholes and whatever we could think of, and advertised a sale at our home. And we started the fund for rebuilding the church. I joined the Land Army. I was 19 when war broke out. I joined the Land Army about halfway through, and then we moved to Sussex. And if anybody wants to see an army gas mask, I've got one here. You've never seen one before. It was one Sophie's daddy used to wear, and grandpa used to wear, not her daddy. Grandpa used to wear.
Thank you very much. And now Charlotte, you're going to introduce, is it great auntie?
My great-great-auntie Grace.
Auntie Grace, stand up. Are you going to stand up?
I'm great-great-aunt because I'm probably older than all of you. Because I was nearly, 18 years and 11 months when war broke out. So
19.
19. Oh, just not. So I was getting on, and today you never see pictures of women in the forces, don't you? They're practically fighting in places like Afghanistan and that now. Well, women didn't do that very much in the war, but they took the place of the men, so the men could go overseas and do the fighting. And I joined the ATS, which was the army branch of the forces. It was called the Auxiliary Territorial Service. And you wore a uniform, just like, not like they wear today, because it was khaki, not glamorous as it is today. And we never had silk stockings or anything like that. We had thick khaki cotton stockings,
Very glamorous.
Very
glamorous.
It was really amazing. And one thing that I remember most being in the ATS, you had a cap, and you weren't allowed to have your hair touching the back of your collar. And the officer used to come around and say, get your hair cut, get your hair cut, get your hair cut. Or otherwise, if you had it a bit longer, you rolled it up. You put a sort of Alice band around it, rolled it up and tucked it sort of under your cap, so that when you went on parade, the officer didn't notice your hair showing. It was really quite strict. And as the gentleman there said, when we went into it, we had palliasses, from having a lovely soft bed at home to going on to lying on a palliasse, freezing cold, with just the old grey blankets. Lots of the girls used to cry themselves to sleep at night. It was really quite sad at times because they're all youngsters, 18, 19-year-olds, and I've seen loads of them cry themselves to sleep.
I don't suppose they'd ever been away from
No,
home
exactly,
before.
no. And of course, they didn't, although I say it myself, we did marvellous work. The girls who joined the WAF, which was the Air Force equivalent, they plotted all the bombing raids and everything like that, you know, and the girls in the ATS were on the gun sites, you know, they used to help fire the guns, the ACAT guns and that sort of thing. And we took the soldiers' places in lots of ways, you know, so the soldiers could then be posted overseas. And I consider that we did a very important job, you know. There was a women's equivalent in the Navy, it was called the WRENS, the Women's Royal Naval Service. So you had 3 lots of girls, you know, Navy, Army and Air Force, all volunteered to take the place of the men. So the men could go overseas, because the men were needed overseas at the time.
And as the land army did,
Yes,
of course.
exactly. Yes, the land army girls took the place of the farmers, yes. So I consider we did quite a good job.
So one particular memory, Auntie?
Oh dear. Yeah, well, one that's rather funny